Hi there, it's time to make block 6 in the Quilty Chicks block of the month. This one is Arizona Sun and we're making the comb 3 for the first time. The comb 3 is the easiest out of all of them. The instructions are on page 8 and we're just stitching and flipping on 3 of the corners. Just make sure you do it on the right corners and you're good to go. And then this block, it has a ton of small pieces, like these teeny tiny little 1.5 inch squares. But even with the small pieces, it goes together really smoothly. The only thing to really worry about is your 1/4 inch seam. You're going to want to make sure that it is no larger than a 1/4 inch and perhaps a little bit narrower than a 1/4 inch, a scant 1/4 inch seam, so that the block doesn't end up too small. All right, so we've got all of our pieces cut out per the instructions. And in the instructions, it says to draw a line from corner to corner on the back of these quilt block squares, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And I don't want to. There's a lot of these things, and we're going to be sewing on the line, and we should be able to eyeball sewing from corner to corner just fine. So let's go over to the sewing machine and we'll get these sewn up. So we're over here at the sewing machine and we're going to be sewing from corner to corner on this quilt, on this little square. In fact, you're going to want to sew not from this corner to this corner, because starting on a corner can get that corner like sucked down into that little hole. So if you start on this flat side, you'll be much more likely to be able to sew smoothly without the thread getting gummed up. Alternatively, you can use a piece of scrap fabric as a starter, and that having a piece of fabric and being able to ease from one fabric to another can help you transition and not gum up the corner. So we're just going to eyeball it and look at the corner and go just right to that corner. It's kind of like what I tell my kids when they're learning how to drive. You just look at where you want to go and just kind of go there. If you find this is not working for you, not a problem. Go ahead and draw those lines on the back. You can also, if you want, use like 1/4 inch tape. You can use that has drawn lines on it that can help you so you keep this corner lined up with the tape and help guide yourself from corner to corner. Again, this is they're fairly short, so it's pretty easy. Okay. I'm just showing how to make one block, but you would do this instead of 4 times, 8 times. And then trim them apart. You're just going to trim the corner off about a 1/4 inch from the side and press away. Press towards the corner. Now, if you use your thumb to kind of just like really rub that down, you get a really good press for something this small. Normally, if this was a bigger piece, I would not do it this way, but it works with this, and I kind of don't want to get up from the sewing machine right now and sew it. So I'll do that for all the rest of them, and then once you do that, once you trim and press, either with your thumb or with an iron, you just repeat the same thing on the, oh, see, it got a little bit jammed there, on the other corner. All right, let's do it. All right, and then again, we're gonna trim these apart. And again, you can do this with a rotary cutter if you want, but I think it works easier with scissors. And then we'll press these guys open. I'm just gonna leave these for later, and I'll press them over at the ironing board. But while we're over here at the sewing machine, we can sew our little squares together into pairs. And then we can iron all of them at once. These have a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so I'm gonna put on my 1/4 inch foot and just gonna sew, line them up and sew along the edge. Again, you're going to want to have this be no larger than a 1/4 inch and closer to a scant 1/4 inch, just a hair or so narrower. You can sew a test seam on a scrap piece of fabric and test how and measure how wide your seam is. On some fancier sewing machines, you can change the settings and just move your needle over just a hair or two, or you can just move your fabric over a hair or two as you sew from what you would normally. All right, again, I'm just making enough for one block. Let's go over and press these. And now it's time to press these little guys. They're so small. So I'm gonna kind of give that side that I fingernail pressed a little bit more of a press, and then get that second flying geese unit open. All right, there they are. And then just press these open. One of these larger rectangles onto each of these and sew a larger rectangle to the bottom of each of these guys. Again, with a scant 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to do that and come right back. Now that these are sewn together, we're going to set the seams and give them a good press. Now that they're all pressed, let's lay them out. You've got little star pieces. And then these corner pieces. And our little center piece. This could be really fun if you wanted to fussy cut something to go in here, a little flower or graphic, something. So next we're just going to sew them together into rows, press, and then sew the rows together. When you're sewing the units together, you'll notice that these seams, one's pointing this way, one's pointing that way, so you can nest them together and make sure they match. Again, scant 1/4 inch seams. Now that we've sewn all of these units together into rows, we'll sew the rows together. Then we'll do a final press and we'll be all done. With these final seams, it's really important to give the seams a good press before you press them open or to the side to set that seam, and it helps the seam press open better, more smoothly, more straightly, more straight. Ooh, hot. And I really like when I'm done pressing to give my blocks just a quick spray with either water or starch and give them a really good press just to set that block in place, set those units in place. Makes it really nice when you sew the chicken together. All right, there you go, a cute little quilt block. Lots of little pieces, but super easy construction. Just go ahead, make 2 of those blocks and follow the instructions as normal on page 13. For the setting instructions, again, you're going to use comb 3. If you don't like any one of these combs anywhere along the line, you can substitute it in or out with another one. That's not a big deal. So, great. I can't wait to see your blocks. Thanks for sewing along.